Hello, everyone. This is your Grammar 2 for Unit 10. Today we are going to talk about participle clauses. Um, you will see that it looks complicated, but hopefully it will be less so by the time we've gone through this presentation. So let's look at what participle clauses are. They enable us to say information in a more economical way, meaning just shorter, really. For example, having lived through difficult times together, they were very close friends, which means because they have lived through difficult times together, or they had lived through difficult times together, they were such close friends. We form participle clauses in a sentence by using either the present participles, like going, reading, saying, or the past participles, like gone and read and seen, or the perfect participles, having gone, having read, having seen, etc. Okay? What are the main features of participle clauses? What is it about them that you need to understand grammatically? Uh, we can use participle clauses only when the participle and the verb in the main clause have the same subject. So, whoever the carrier of the action is has to be the same. For example, waiting for Ellie, I made some tea. While I was waiting for Ellie, I made some tea. The subject is the same. It is me. It's myself, I. Participle clauses do not have a specific tense. The tense is indicated by the verb in the main clause. You will have to see some examples of that in order to know what I mean, and you will in due course. And the third one is that participle clauses are mainly used in written texts, particularly in a literary, academic, or journalistic style. But we do use them, so you need to know about them. So, as I said, you can use different participles, so there are different types of participle clauses. The first one that we're going to look at is the present participle clause. That's the ing form. And when you use that, it has a similar meaning to an active verb. We use them to give the result of an action, for instance. The bomb exploded, destroying the building, meaning the bomb exploded and it destroyed the building. You can use them to give the reason for an action. Knowing she loved reading, Richard bought her a book, which means because he knew that she loved reading, Richard bought her a book. Or to talk about an action that happened at the same time as another action. Standing in the queue, I realized I didn't have any money, meaning as or while I was standing in the queue, I realized I didn't have any money. Or to add information about the subject of the main clause. Starting in the new year, the new policy bans cars in the city centre. The new policy, which has started in the new year, bans cars in the city centre. As you can see, we went through several tenses, but they didn't depend on the participle clause, they depended on the tense in the main clause, even though we were all the time using only the present participles. Again, we can use the second type, we can use the past participle, or that's to remind you the third form of the verb. And normally those would have a passive meaning in a participle clause. And you can use them to convey a similar meaning to an if condition. Used in this way, participles can make your writing more concise, meaning if you use participles in this way, this will do this and that. Or to give the reason for an action, worried by the news, she called the hospital. So she called the hospital because she was worried by the news. Or again, to add information about the subject of the main clause, filled with pride, he walked towards the stage. He was filled with pride as he walked towards the stage. So that's it. Again, we are using different tenses here. Now, look at the third type, which is when we use the perfect participle. And they show an action that was finished before the action in the main clause. That's the main thing about them. Also, they can be structured to either have a passive or an active meaning. So you have to figure this out. Let us look at the examples. Having got dressed, he slowly went downstairs, which means after he had got dressed, he went downstairs. Well, slowly, obviously. Having finished their training, there will be fully qualified doctors, which we can transform into saying when they finish their training, there will be fully qualified doctors. Or having been made redundant, she started looking for a new job, which we can transform in several ways, but maybe when she was made redundant, she started looking for a new job. After she had been made redundant, she started looking for a new job, and so on. So you can see that here, again, we're passing through several different tenses, and the tense does not depend on the participle clause, because we are only using the perfect participle here, but it depends on, is decided by the tense in the main clause of the sentence. And we can go active or passive depending on what we want to say. Finally, it's also possible to use participle clauses to follow conjunctions and prepositions, such as before or after or since or on or when or while. Let us look at several examples. Before cooking, you should wash your hands, which is simply before you cook, you should wash your hands. But you can say it either way. On arriving at the hotel, he went to get changed, which means once he had arrived at the hotel, he went to get changed. While packing her things, she thought about the last 2 years, which is while she was packing her things, she thought about the last 2 years. In spite of having read the instructions twice, I still couldn't understand how to use it, which is even though I had read the instructions twice, I still couldn't understand how to use it. And again, I'm uh, pointing your attention towards the fact that we're going through several different tenses which are all decided by the verb in the main clause and not in the participle clause. So that's basically it. And in conclusion, as always, I'm going to tell you what I have already told you, which is one, that you form the participle clause to shorten a sentence using a present participle, which is the ing form, or a past participle, which is the third form of the verb, or a perfect participle, which is having plus the third form of the verb. Number two is that you use the participle clauses only when the subject in the main clause is the same as the one in the participle clause itself. And three is that participle clauses do not carry a specific tense of their own. The tense of the sentence is indicated by the verb, which you can find in the main clause of this same sentence that we're talking about. Okay, last one. Um, Most of this information, your main reference is from the British Council website. And I would like you now to go and click on this link. And there are two short grammar quizzes on this particular web page. Please, I think they only have 8 questions each. Go through them, do the quizzes, get the feedback in order to just check your understanding of participle clauses as they are. Okay, thank you. Bye.